Hello, so today we will analyze another master game. This one is by Bobby Fischer, and this is a pretty nice game. It does use a pretty clever tactic, and this game ended in 21 moves. So this is a pretty short game, but a very nice one. Bobby Fischer is playing with the white pieces against Pal Benko, and we get e4. We get g6, the modern defense, and we get d4, bishop g7, knight to c3, d6, f4, knight to f6, knight to f3, castles, bishop to d3, and we have an Austrian variation. We have bishop to g4, we get h3, and Benko decides to take here, and goes knight to c6 here, and after bishop to e3, immediately goes e5, because it's only natural that, the king is already castled. Why not strike in the center, King's Indian style like this? And now Bobby Fischer has a choice here, and that is d takes e5, and then after e takes d5, d takes e5 again, or after d takes e5, play another move. And you can pause the video to see the difference between d takes e5 and playing a very strong move here. See if you can find the strong move. Now the difference between d takes e5 and the move that Bobby Fischer played is that after d takes e5, if you go with f takes e5 here, well then after knight takes e5, suddenly it's not looking so good here, because let's say you play queen d2, this you can just take this, and you might argue that you have two central pawns, but these pawns are very vulnerable, especially the d pawn, and both e files are both the e and d, or the center files, are in control for the black pieces here. So this isn't really an ideal position to have. So after d takes e5, Bobby Fischer plays a very strong move, f5. A nice move here, and the idea is basically you're attacking the king. Now, if you take, this isn't good, because this is exactly what happens in the game, but we'll get to that later of Bobby Fischer recaptures. But the idea is basically to just open up the G file, and you're potentially castling long here and then putting a rook on the F file, or maybe even castling short to put a rook on the F file immediately. So it's very interesting. But after f5, g takes f5, you can pause the video once again to see what move should be played here. Now, while e takes f5 looks attractive here, because you're having three pawns here, maybe you can go g4, g5 in the future, and it's very interesting. However, the problem with this is that now Bobby Fischer can just play e4 here. I mean, Benko can play e4 here. And the idea is, even though there's a pawn sacrifice, let's say you go knight takes e4. Now there's knight to e5. And suddenly it's not looking so good here. And if you decided to take like this, for example, because if you go like queen to e2, I'm pretty sure there's knight takes like this. And if you take back, and is there this move? I'm not sure actually. Oh wait, no, this, then this. But after this, let's actually double check the engine. Oh wait, no. There's knight takes d3, c takes d3, and this is very strong. And then like knight takes c4, and yeah, again, you have a very weak pawn structure. So, let's say knight takes f6 here in this position with knight to e5 after the pawn sacrifice is accepted. They can just go queen takes f6, and your position here is very passive. So, essentially, like, let's say you go here, they can probably just take like this and then take this pawn. So essentially you're getting cooked. So instead, Bobby Fischer takes with the queen, not only maintaining the half open file, and there's now an open half open G file because the bishop's blocking. Excuse me. And now there's no more e4 because we have an e pawn. And here Benko just goes for knight to d4. We get queen to f2. I don't know why I automatically played queen takes e5. We get queen to f2, and queen takes e5 is actually a mistake because of the move knight to g4 here, and you're getting cooked. Like, let's say you go queen to f4. There's just takes, and queen to h4 check. Knight to d4 and queen to f2 here. So Bobby Fischer just drops queen back, and here we get knight to e8. And the idea is that Benko, okay, is thinking, okay, maybe a piece will end up on f5, like let's say the knight here. And what if I play knight to e8 here? Because the knight might be going, let's say, here, 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 all the way to f5. And so by doing this move, knight to e8, now the knight can end up on e6 here, and basically maybe f5 can also come in, but the idea is just to prevent a knight from going in there, because then there's going to be a lot of exchanges. We just get castles by Bobby Fischer here, just putting the rook on the half-open f-file. There's no need to castle long here, because you're not even going to use the pawns to attack anymore, because, once again, you've already used your f-pawn, and now they have open g-file and f-file. So by castling on the short side here, not only do you get a rook automatically on the f-file, your king's here as well, and there's no use for the rook being on the d-file too. So we just get knight to d6 here, putting the knight here, putting extra control here on f5, and here we just get queen to g3. And the idea of queen to g3 is Bobby Fischer, okay, I think I need to get the queen to the h5 square, but the queen is currently on f2. It can't do that in one move. And basically, when the queen is on h5, there are sneaky threats, like maybe we could take here like this, take the knight, and then play e5 here, and then now that h7 pawn is hanging. So Bobby Fischer plays queen to g3 with tempo, because now the bishop's pinned to the king, and bishop h6 is a huge threat here. Like, let's say you just play c6 or something, I don't know. After bishop to h6, let's say you go here. This is just a very passive position. There's probably a lot of moves here that just is reactive. I don't know, maybe one of them is just doubling on the f-file. That's a potential plan. So essentially, black is very passive here. So after queen to g3, Benko doesn't want any of this and plays the move king to h8. Now we get the move queen to g4, trying to put the queen on h5 here. And here we get c6 here. I have no clue really what Benko is trying to do here. I guess it's to try to get counterplan. Queen side. Now that just allows queen to h5, and once again, there's immediately a threat here. Like, let's say you play a5 or something. Now there's just takes. Bishop takes d4, and after e takes d4, then e5 once again, and the h7 pawn and the knight are hanging here. And you can't do anything about this. You're getting mated or you're losing a piece. Like, let's say you go here. Probably just moving the knight is natural. Let's actually double check the engine. So the engine is just e takes, and after queen takes, what happens if takes, then there's queen to f5. That's why. That's why queen takes d6 is the best move. Okay. So anyway, now bishop takes d4 is already a threat here. And so Benko decides to play queen to e8. A very creative move, The idea is that now if you take, well then after e takes d4 and you go e5, well there's this f5. And the idea is they're offering a queen trade here. And let's say you take the queen. Now they just go knight takes. And this is a very playable endgame for them. Because now this pawn is hanging, but this pawn is hanging. But basically, it's completely better than the current position they have. So if they go e5, so if Bobby Fischer plays e5, it's a huge blunder. But anyway, queen to e8. Even though it's a very creative move, it's still a huge blunder. Why? Because yes, bishop takes d4, he takes d4. Benko is expecting e5 with Bobby Fischer. Shocks Benko with the move. Rook to f6. A rook sacrifice. And the idea is now, if you take, well, now the bishop is blocking the f-pawn, so now you can go e5 once again, and there's nothing to stop mate here. And let's say you go here, I just take, and you're getting mated. And I don't really see any clear defense here. Like here, basically you're just getting mated. So there's no way to stop mate after you take. So, what if you take the knight here instead? Well, this move is just completely useless. It doesn't really do anything other than taking a knight that wasn't doing anything in the first place. Is now we just play e5 anyway. And now, yes, you might see I have h6 here. Well, now there's just rook takes. And if you take, you're going to that same mate in 2. If you go here, you can pause the video to find a pretty nice solution here for mate in 2. The move is rook h8 check, sacrificing the rook once again. And after bishop takes h8, queen to h7 is a checkmate. Basically, you're trying to clear the way for queen to go to h7. So d takes c3 isn't possible. And then let's say you go, after rook to f6, you go h6 here. Again, there's just takes, and after king to g8, the best way to probably play is just e5. I'm guessing e5 is probably very strong here. Maybe there's f5. Let's check. f5, rook g6, there's rook g6. But what's the best way? Rook to f6 once again. Wow. Crazy. Just saying rook to f6. That's pretty funny. And the idea is you're going e5 anyway. So yeah, that's a pretty nice line by the engine over there. But now after rook to f6, Benko decided to play the move king to g8 here. And the idea is that, let's say you go e5 here, they're going to play the move h6. And the idea is that if you take, suddenly they have the move f5 once again. And we're transposing into that line. But after h6, instead of accepting the sacrifice, try to find the move here that just makes Benko immediately resign. Like, this is the last move of the game and made Benko resign immediately. The move is knight to e2. And the idea is pretty simple. The knight can't move anywhere. That's pretty much it. The idea is basically you just get out of the pawn here, the pawn pressuring you, and you just go knight to e2. Suddenly the knight can't move anywhere. You might say, what if I just go, like, let's say, knight c8 or knight b5, there's just queen to f5. And there's no way to stop mate here. So essentially, the knight has to maintain control here, and it's impossible. Let's say after here, there's probably just rook takes. And once again, this is rather than... And Bobby Fischer will just be up a piece here. So after knight e2, Benko just resigns. So that was a very nice game by Bobby Fischer here. It started with a modern defense, and then Bobby Fischer here, instead of taking twice in the center, plays f5, going for aggressive attacking style chess here. We get g takes f5 and queen takes f5. And another key idea is you go e takes f5. Now there's just e4 here, a pawn sacrifice, and black might have an initiative here. Excuse me. And then another key moment was maneuvering the queen to h5 here. With queen to g3, and then queen to g4, going to h5, because h4 is impossible, because then that's just a free queen. So, and then c6 here by Benko, I don't know what that move does, and then now we get queen to h5, and then we get queen to e8, pretty creative idea by Benko here, but then Bobby Fischer just plays bishop takes d4 and e takes d4 here, and the key moment was not e5, which is a very huge blunder here, which immediately turns the game into an equal game. But the move, rook to f6, an interference sacrifice. So, that was a pretty nice game. Make sure to like and subscribe, and bye.